The story kicks off with a group of kids full of dreams. One of them excitedly says they should become treasure hunters, imagining themselves venturing to treasure vaults around the world, claiming riches and glory. The others are fired up by the idea, agreeing that the 6 of them together could achieve their dream of becoming the strongest heroes in the world. Then the red-haired kid even mentions they should head to the capital Zabrudia one day. The scene then jumps to the present day, and we see a cloaked man walking the bustling streets, musing about the life of treasure hunters. He explains that treasure hunters are like the celebrities of the imperial capital. They travel to ancient ruins and treasure vaults scattered across the world, risking their lives to claim hidden treasures. For the danger of fighting terrifying monsters known as phantoms, they're rewarded with wealth and honor. Then as the man walks, a tavern comes into view. He notes that today inside this tavern, one of the most powerful clans called First Steps is holding interviews for new party members. He explains that a clan is essentially a gathering of parties, like a mutual aid society. There's only so much an explorer can do on their own. If you want to climb to higher levels, it's crucial to join a strong party and grow alongside your allies. Then, while standing in line to get into the tavern, the man admits to himself that he was never able to reach that point. Suddenly, a girl behind him strikes up a conversation, asking if he's here to form a party too. Apologizing for the sudden chat, she introduces herself as Runa Runebeck, an explorer certified at level 3. The guy responds, introducing himself as Cry Andre. But then when Ruda offers to shake his hand, he doesn't take it. She then seems surprised at the huge crowd gathered for the interviews and confides that she's been exploring solo until now, and she struggled with a treasure shrine called the White Wolf's Den, which led her to finally consider joining a party. Another explorer nearby overhears their conversation and scoffs, thinking Ruda is out of her depth for trying to tackle that treasure shrine at level 3, and he smugly tells her that a place like that isn't for amateurs like her. Ruda understandably doesn't appreciate being called an amateur by a total stranger, but the guy doubles down, explaining that First Steps is one of the top clans in the imperial capital. Sure, level 3 might be considered mid-level in the outside world, but here, it's basically beginner status. He advises her to turn around and go home, which only makes Ruda angrier, so she draws her knives. Before things can escalate, the guards conducting the interviews step in. They warn them to calm down, saying they'll be forced to kick them out if they cause a scene. The guard scolds them, reminding them that an explorer should never draw their weapons in the streets. With that, the tension settles, and the next scene shifts to Cry and Ruda inside the tavern. Ruda is taken aback by the sheer number of applicants and admits she's never been in a place like this before, so she curiously asks Cray if he's been through something like this before, and he casually replies that this is his 5th time. Ruda then surprisingly feels a little bad for him, but Cray brushes it off, telling her there's no need for sympathy. He then explains that being an explorer is all about skill. Talented people rise to the top quickly, but for those who aren't as gifted, it's a much tougher road. Ruda then points out a flashy party in the tavern, asking Cry about them. Cry informs her that they're the Holy Spirit's son called Ark Brave, currently looking for new members. They're the ones who recently conquered a level 7 treasure vault, and they're considered one of the best parties around. Their leader, Ark Rodin, is known for recognizing talent, and if he recognizes an explorer, that person's success is practically guaranteed, but Cray admits this is the first time he's seen them conducting interviews. Ruda then notices an empty seat and asks about it, but before Cry can answer, the rude guy from earlier butts in again, arrogantly declaring that Ruda is clueless. He says he'll enlighten her whether she wants it or not. Despite her telling him to stop, he introduces himself as Greg Zangief, a level 4 certified explorer. He points out that the empty seat belongs to the founder of the Grievers, one of the most respected parties in the capital. Cry then explains that the Grievers came to the capital a few years ago as a fresh new party, and they quickly rose to prominence due to their immense talent. Their official name is Grieving Souls, and as Cry reveals, they are the party of his childhood friends. Greg's still budding and mentions that rumors are swirling about the Grievers recruiting a new member for the first time in years, which is why so many explorers have gathered. However, Greg dismisses the rumor as false, pointing out that no one is sitting at the founder's table. One of the other participants speaks up, asking where the Grievers are. He boldly declares that he only came to join them because they're considered the best. Full of himself, he brags that one day he'll be the strongest explorer ever, revealing he's already a level 4 certified explorer. Suddenly, a girl from the management staff steps forward and confronts the loudmouth. Without holding back, she tells him to get out. Some of the other staff members rush to calm her down, reminding her they're not supposed to stir up any trouble today. But the girl isn't having any of it, and she snaps back, saying that her sister would have done the same thing if she were here. The tension builds as the two prepare to fight, and Cray, sensing the incoming chaos, tells Ruda they should get out before things get messy. Ruda follows him out just as the brat Gilbert tries to attack the girl Tino. But before he can land a blow, Tino quickly notices Cray's presence. She locks eyes with him, And just as Gilbert charges, she expertly dodges his attack and corners Cry instead. With Gilbert still flailing, Tino turns to Cry, calling him master, and asks what he's doing here. It's then revealed that Cray isn't just some random explorer, he's actually the leader of Grieving Souls and the clan master that everyone's been talking about. Cray begins to explain that everything started several years ago when he and his group left their village as fresh newcomers eager to explore. They quickly conquered several beginner treasure vaults, one after the other. But one day while exploring a vault, a monster attacked Cray, but one of his friends killed it just in time. The friend praised Cray for acting as a decoy. Cray, however, knew the truth. He hadn't even noticed the monster was there. In that moment, he realized something critical. Though they all shared the same dream, their talents were far from equal. He recognized himself as just an ordinary guy in comparison and started to feel like a burden. He knew his friends were too kind to tell him to leave, so he decided on his own to quit the party. But when Cray tried to talk to them about it, they all dodged the topic, saying they still hadn't chosen a leader yet. Then the red-haired guy in their group suggested that Cray should be their leader, and the others immediately agreed, saying Cray was perfect for the role since he was good at giving speeches and motivating everyone, so Cray didn't even get the chance to refuse. Fast forward several years, and Cray is still the leader of the party, made up of his childhood friends. He admits that while he holds this role, he's long wanted to retire from being an explorer. Ruda then is still stunned and can't believe Cray is the clan master of First Steps, and even Ark joins in teasing Cray. Ark recalls how Cray had claimed he was late because he overslept, but now it seems like he was just secretly assessing the participants by blending in with them. Cray corrects him, saying that he really did oversleep, but Ark refuses to believe him. Cray then comments that much like Ark, most explorers just don't listen to people. Tino, visibly annoyed, says Ark is being downright rude and jokes that they should kick him out of the clan. Ark laughs, thinking Tino's sense of humor is hilarious. We also learn that Tino is a level 4 certified explorer, and Cray explains that she's a solo explorer in First Steps and also one of his childhood friends, as well as a disciple of Liz, one of their strongest members. Ark asks Cray if he's found any good candidates, and Cray, in his usual snarky way, wonders if Ark would actually take the person he recommends into his party. Ark, without hesitation, says he would because he trusts Cray's judgment, and the whole tavern is shocked to hear this. Ark's party mates try to warn him against it, but Ark stands firm, saying he'll only take in a single person suggested by Cray. Cray then asks if it can really be anyone, and Ark leaves it completely up to him. Cray thinks to himself that Ark really does have a big heart, though he notices one of Ark's party mates glaring at him for this. Cray then glances at Tino, and she immediately assumes he's going to choose her. She proudly declares that she's made up her mind to stay by Cray's side, now and always. She even adds that she has no interest in joining that wannabe-handsome guy's party. Meanwhile, Gilbert starts causing a scene again, loudly announcing that he's going to be the one to join Ark's party. Cray recalls that Gilbert boasted about being level 4 and wonders if he's even in a party at all. Gilbert brushes it off, saying it shouldn't matter. Cray starts thinking that maybe this guy could be an asset if Ark trains him right. But Cray admittedly knows his eye for talent isn't great, so it might come down to luck. Cray then tells Gilbert he'll recommend him to Ark, but there's a catch. He asks Gilbert what he thinks is the most important thing for an explorer. When Gilbert can't answer, Cray tells him not to lose. He warns that if Gilbert lacks strength, he could put his entire party in danger. So Cray needs to see if Gilbert has what it takes. He casually mentions that ever since he became an explorer, he's never lost once. The crowd is shocked by this, though Cray thinks to himself that the only reason it's true is because he's never actually had a proper fight. Cray pulls off a ring from his finger and tells everyone that whoever manages to get their hands on this relic will be the one he recommends to Ark. He tosses the ring into the air. Gilbert catches it, but before he can celebrate, Tino sends him flying with a powerful kick. The ring rolls onto the ground, and suddenly the entire tavern erupts into chaos as everyone scrambles to grab it, so the place is turned upside down. Meanwhile, Cray casually slips out, leaving the participants to wreck the tavern over his little test. The next day, Vice Clan Master Eva Renfeed informs Cray that the tavern incident has made the news. She reveals that the venue was completely wrecked due to his reckless actions. Cray then immediately asks if there were any civilian casualties and is relieved to hear there were none. However, Eva adds that the Explorers Association wants to have a word with him. Cray wonders if Ark had anything to say about the chaos, and Eva tells him that Ark just laughed after reading the article. Cray shakes his head, thinking Ark's far too easygoing, and suggests they charge the repair bill to Ark's account and send him to the association as well. Eva sighs, telling Cray he relies on Ark way too much. This time, though, the association specifically asked for Cray. Realizing he can't get out of it, Cray grumbles, knowing he has to go or else the branch manager might come after him instead. He then complains about not wanting to leave without an escort and mentions that his disguise relic, a powerful artifact called Reversible Face, which allows him to change his appearance, has broken. Eva rolls her eyes, assuring him no one's going to attack him this early in the day. So with no other choice, Cry reluctantly heads out. Later, we see Cry groveling before the association manager, apologizing for the whole tavern disaster. He explains that no civilians were harmed and that once the chaos started, he couldn't stop it. He points out that the building was the only thing damaged, and surprisingly, no one has filed a formal complaint. To sweeten the deal, he mentions that the tavern's owner is a friend of his, and he's sure they'll forgive him. A young woman at the manager tells Cry to calm down, handing him a book. The association manager, Grack Welter, sternly reminds Cray that a high-ranking clan like First Steps should be setting a good example for others. Letting Cry off without consequences would send the wrong message. Cry, sensing where this is going, realizes he's about to get stuck with a chore. He explains that the Hunters Association receives all kinds of job requests, many of which are tough time consuming and pay so poorly that no one wants to take them on. Hunters call these unwanted tasks chores, and Cray is not a fan of the idea. Resigned to his fate, Cray flips through the list of available chores, most of which are meant for level 4 explorers or higher, but eventually he finds a level 3 task that seems a bit easier and snatches it up without thinking too hard about it, and we find out that he chose a rescue mission. Afterwards, we see Cry leaving the association and Grack watches him, thinking to himself that Cry hasn't changed a bit. He reveals that Cry, without realizing it, picked one of the most difficult-looking chores. Later, Cry discovers that Ark isn't at the guild headquarters, and Tino informs him that Ark has been summoned by some nobles. As Cry looks around and notices the place is empty, Tino approaches and shows him the ring he tossed the previous day, so Cray realizes she's the one who ended up with it. Tino proudly admits she didn't want anyone else getting their hands on his ring, and she nervously asks if she can keep it. And Cry tells her it's just a shooting ring, so she can have it. Then Cry casually asks if she's free right now. Tino, expecting a date, excitedly says she is, but her excitement vanishes when Cry hands her the chore he received from the association, so she horrifiedly bolts the second she sees it, but Cry calmly summons his magical chain Silver and orders it to bring her back. Moments later, Silver drives a reluctant and frustrated Tino back to Cry. She's visibly upset, accusing Cray of playing with her feelings. She thought he was asking her out, but instead he's saddling her with a crappy job. All she wanted was to get ice cream with him, not get stuck with an awful mission. She complains that the job is terrible and that as a level 4 explorer, there's no way she can rescue 5 people on her own. Cry agrees, nodding sympathetically, but Tino also adds that she already knows he's only sending her on this mission for her personal growth. Cry, scratching his head, starts wondering if the mission is really that tough since it's labeled as level 3. Realizing Tino just doesn't want to tackle the task alone, Cray decides to pair her up with 3 new recruits, Ruta, Gray, and Gilbert. Tino isn't thrilled with the arrangement, still hoping she'd be exploring alongside Cray instead, but despite her grumbling, Cray hopes the group will be able to handle the mission together. That's it for this video, guys. If you like this new series, leave a like for the next episode, and subscribe for more Anon content. Thanks for watching, bye-bye.